Hey, what's up ladies and gentlemen, I am Piglet here once again, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Toy Story 2 for the PlayStation, Sega Dreamcast, Nintendo 64, PC, and of course the 2D side-scrolling platformer for the Game Boy Color. So, last time we have managed to able to gather the rest of 5 of those Pizza Planet tokens in Elevator Hub. Well, we did manage to collect them all, mind you. As well as for now, we also managed to revisiting back to the forms of alleys and galleys to, you know, just trying to wrap things up with that particular world while going to collect the final 2 of those Pizza Planet tokens. In addition with those kind of levels, we also managed to take down both bosses, which there are, well, Spider Gunru as well as the forms of Clown Top. So, yeah, today for this episode, and that was the fact that we're going to be moving on to probably my favorite level in the whole game, which appears to be by the forms of Owl's Penthouse, because, well, if you remember from the film, well, basically that's how they able to actually ended up in here. So even then, one thing I really do like about this level though, compared to the rest though, is that I really like how the fact that it feels kind of similar to the forms of Andy's house, but except the fact that it's all usually this becomes like a multi-room kind of exploration, such as like, well, the entrance room, for example, as well as, you know, they did manage to have themselves a bathroom there, as well as the kitchen, as well as the train station room, and not to mention with that particular familiar room, because you know why whenever we get to that, whenever we continue exploring for that stuff. So, yeah, obviously today's day is the forms of the 28th of November today in 2019, so we're getting pretty close to the forms of November. And remember I said this before earlier, but I'm gonna say that again. Unfortunately though, for those of you probably wondering where in the world is the next, you know, recording sessions on, you know, Kingdom Hearts Final Mix and all that stuff, unfortunately though, truth be told guys, it will be delayed until whenever we finish that Let's Play and during any forms of next year, unfortunately, just because, well, the truth is because we keep on getting distracted by the forms of other Let's Plays, all things considered, and also because of the forms of the lack of, you know, the big marathon, which did happen during the forms of August, but during the forms of our phone storage issues that we keep on having. And then as a result of this kinds of stuff though, we pretty much wasted our opportunities to be able to actually upload more recording schedules, unfortunately, just because, well, you know how it is when it comes to like our schedules at this point in time, but even then, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So the main gimmick of this stage, as you can see right there, is the fact that we need to destroy a lot of those cannon, you know, those little cannons in general, because, well, if you couldn't tell already, it depends on what rooms you're going to be entering. Sometimes they always got themselves the actual cannons before they start to able to firing at you. So your chance is the fact that in order to actually destroy them, is the fact that you need to able to activate one of those switches, and as a result of this specific matter, then you would able to actually get yourselves a much more easier time with the actual level. And look at that, we actually come across into that, you know, peculiar new character introduced in the Toy Story universe. Well, generally speaking, that was back in 20 years ago, so even then, here we have the forms of both Jessie as well as Bullseye, and if you're probably wondering where's the actual Prospector, which appears to be by the forms of another member of the forms of the Cowboy, or in this case, Woody's Roundup, because I say that because, well, we all might as well find out until whenever we continue exploring for this game though. So even then, obviously we need to avoid a lot of hazards, such as like the actual hubs, as you can see right there. So even then, relatively speaking, there's not much else to really compliment on it. So, oh yeah, apart from the fact that with the forms of the Dreamcast version, is that one thing I totally forgot to mention to you guys about something is that, well, originally I was supposed to able to actually get myself the Dreamcast version of Toy Story 2, so that way I can able to actually replay that game again, but, truth be told guys, I might as well able to pass on it, because, well, for instance, for example, about the fact that there's going to be some upcoming, titles coming out for it, for the Nintendo Switch I need to still save up, such as like, you know, the new brain training game, as well as, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, so that way I can able to give that game another shot, but this time around though, on the go and all that stuff, plus with, remastered visuals, which heavily borrows from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and all that stuff, which I still find that game to be kind of overrated in my opinion, but at least for the forms of the first game though, I always still remember it. So anyway, so if you go onto that particular room, mind you, we'll go to the forms of that train room whenever we get to later on, because first of all, let's go in towards onto the left, because you know, this just seems recognizable, because if you remember from the film, basically we ended up in the forms of, let's just say, the Woody's Roundup room, because, well, it's got all sorts of stuff, like, for instance, Woody's Roundup merchandise, like the lunchbox, as well as the actual huge standee, and also same applies to the forms of the actual display, because that's the reason why that in a film, for those of you who want to know all about it, especially noticeable that, I think most of you people out there already know about this, is that that's the reason why Al wants to able to steal Woody from the very beginning of the film, just because it was a rare collectible, as in the forms of Woody's Roundup merchandise. So, also you got these very familiar faceplates on the forms of the actual display board, such as the forms of Woody, as I mentioned earlier, as well as Jesse, Bullseye, and of course, Prospector, which even then, we'll point things out later on, whenever we're able to continue things on with the later levels. So, if we go all the way from here we go with the forms of the next boss, which appears to be Gunslinger. So, I think to me, though, that Gunslinger was actually is probably, well, at this point in time, is the fact that in the later bosses now and then, it's gonna get a lot harder and difficult. I think, to me though, Gunslinger was actually the easiest of the three, but whenever we get to level 13 and 14, it gets a little bit trickier as we progress here. So even then, let's just go ahead and get ourselves the, you know, the first Pizza Planet token on this particular stage. So, despite the fact that we haven't done that much, apart from the fact that we need to, you know, destroy all sorts of cannons before we're able to actually don't get distracted by them, or even in this case, we don't get hit by them. So, yeah, that's as far as I can say about it. So anyways, let's go ahead and just go down, because I'm pretty sure we've done here for now. Although, conveniently enough though, we need to use this cardboard box so that we can able to, you know, switch between those different rooms, if we could able to actually just to do that. So, even then I was want to classify that. So, but you know, you get the idea for that point. So, you know. So, there's not much else I can really talk about this, I'm afraid, guys, apart from the fact that, well, usually, relatively speaking, there's not much else I can really talk about for news, discussions, or anything like that, I'm afraid, because, you know, since how the fact that 2019 is getting close towards the end of the conclusion, but still, we can deny about the fact that we could able to let Mario finish up with, Super Mario Odyssey Let's Play before whenever we move on to the next 3D Mario Let's Play, before hopefully we can able to get a new 3D announcement of the Mario games or something like that, but even then we'll have to wait and see what happens there. So, the actual main collectibles, as you can see on this level, is the fact that obviously we actually collected those critters. Who it belongs to? Well, if you can tell by the forms of the Woody's Roundup kind of TV clip, and that was the fact that it was actually Jesse's critters. So, yeah, we need to able to deliver the rest of them to, you know, Jesse. So even then, well, despite the fact that Woody wasn't shown up on the actual level itself, so even then though, where is he? I mean, usually kind of speaking about it is the fact that I'm pretty sure Bullseye and Jesse might have hid him on the actual cardboard boxes or something, or to be more accurate though, I'm pretty much unknown about that because, well, it's been such a long time since I actually managed to play this game, so here we go with this next puzzle, as you can see right there, and it appears to be we need to change the actual junctions to the actual train itself. And then that way, if we manage to let the actual train go all the way to the very end, well, not just the forms of this bit right here, but to be more accurate, I think it's like this bit. Then when it stops, then, you know, it will no longer going to be able to continue moving back and forth. And what we can do for this point here is the fact that we need to shove this cardboard box until never we're able to actually guarantee we can able to, well, get ourselves our next Pizza Planet token. So, some people seem to think this might be actually be the trickiest puzzle of the bunch, but to me though, if you manage to get the hang of it though, you would do it just fine. But it wasn't until, whenever we get to the very end of the actual, when we get towards the end of the game, it gets a little bit trickier, which I'll point things out whenever we get to it at some point in, I would say, next Thursday, because like the forms of how it does it in Warrior World ever since on November, I feel like I'm also able to do the same thing from that game as well, and similarly to the forms of Super Monkey Ball, Banana Blitz here and now as well. So I thought to myself that the actual conclusion of this Let's Play will actually be at, I would classify for saying it was actually the 5th of December this Let's Play will conclude. So even then, at least expecting for this much. So, and like always though, is the fact that the Super Mario Odyssey, you know, Luigi's Bloom World uploading recording sessions for Mario, that he's obviously going to be doing that for the majority of December, and alongside with the forms of the virtual reality thing. So, just want to classify that, and eventually at this point we're able to do the last redo Let's Play for the time being, which will have to be by the forms of something a little bit more wintry and stuff, which will give you a hint, because even then though, that since we've already done that before in 2014, but it's no longer there, just because of the actual, well, the quality itself is okay, but it's just that, well, you know how it is. Basically, that the commentary was a little bit quieter, and plus we keep on swearing a lot, which I think is a little bit appropriate for our channel's sake. So even then, I will just have to able to redo that. So, anyways, in this timer challenge, as you can see right there, is the fact that we need to collect all 5 of those horseshoes for Bullseye. So once you're done with that, then you know you can able to go back to Bullseye, and there you go, challenge completed. So, not too complicated, not that difficult either, but first of all, it's going to be a little bit trickier first, because, well, first of all, you have much more shorter time limit, and second is that I just really can't for the life of me, I can't really tell if this is going to be a horseshoe in here, or especially noticeable it's just the actual background image. So even then, at the end, well, at least I did manage to find that at the end though, so at least that's the only good thing. So anyways, let's go ahead and deliver, you know, the 50 coins to Ham, so hopefully we can able to get ourselves, you know, the next Pizza Planet token, and the 5th and final one, which we'll definitely have to do right now, which is of course grabbing all 5. Well, we've already collected 4 of those critters so far, but I think this will actually be the last one, so even then, we need to do a rising water level. So even then, the only thing I don't like about this level though, to me though, is that every time, whenever you're trying to do with the water rising level kind of section like this, sometimes though, if you keep on screwing things up with your jumps or what have you, well, you have to go all the way back to the very beginning of that particular, you know, the puzzle elements, which can be pretty annoying, but apart from those side of things, or glaring issues, it's actually not that bad of a level though, at least in my experience anyway, apart from, you know, very, very well-timing jumps on that specific section, as you can see here, so. But regardless of everything else though, we're actually getting pretty close towards the end, so anyways, let's go ahead and destroy that last cannon, because yes, I think there are about, I don't know how many cannons there are, but I'm pretty sure they actually contains, like, I would say 6 of those cannons, or 5 cannons. I haven't really counted these things that much, because, well, as you can tell, I'm basically concentrating here, so. But, you know, you get the idea for that part. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump from the platform, and hopefully don't fall off like an idiot. So anyways, let's go ahead and grab some coins, despite the fact that we've already done the objective here. And we can able to obtain, don't you dare just manage to avoid me. Thank you. And now we can able to deliver the rest of the critters to, well, Jesse. So that way we can able to conclude, how the hell is that supposed to happen? Because as you can tell, as soon as we leave the actual room like this, basically what happens is that the water level has been automatically disappeared, which I was like, okay, that seems a little bit odd. Admittedly, I know, but hey, at least on the upside though is the fact that, well, we already got all these collectibles. That's all that really matters to me though. So anyways, let's go ahead and just, you know, hop onto here, and then talk to Jesse, and we'll get ourselves our 5th and final Pizza Planet token in our penthouse. So. Plus, I do really love the music on this level though. It almost feels like a cowboy western themed level like this, which even then, I always found that very, very interesting to hearing, so... And by the way, one thing I totally forgot to mention about this is that if you ever play this on the Dreamcast version, this music, as you can hear at the background, that actually plays out on the title screen on the Dreamcast version, because, well, at least as far as you know, it's felt like the opposite version of the PlayStation version when it comes to the sound decisions. Well, I don't usually exactly how do I record that, because even then I haven't exactly own the Dreamcast version just yet though, but again, I might as well pass on it though, because you know, the PlayStation version is definitely more superior of all, you know, all 4 versions of the game basically. So now let's move on to the evil Emperor Zurg, another main boss in the entire game. So this might be very iconic, because if you remember for that scene where usually when Buzz tells the evil Emperor Zurg, specifically the Unity belt Buzz, that he says, like, you kill my father and all that stuff, and then Zurg is like, I am your father. It's very cool, though. It's like a Star Wars references I see right there.
It's Zurg! Buzz Lightyear, your defeat will be my greatest triumph.
So yeah, basically in this entire battle, it usually takes place in the elevator, just like the ones in the movie, and one thing I don't understand is the fact that, well, usually the normal regular Buzz is always keep an eye out with Woody and all that stuff, but the only ones who deal with the forms of Zurg, compared to the ones in the movie, it was actually the forms of the Unity Belt version of Buzz Lightyear, but that's about it. But, again, it's just a video game logic aside from that though, but hey, at least that usually happens at points, so... Yeah, unlike any other bosses in this game though, is the fact that you can't able to actually attack Zurg with the actual laser, so instead, you need to use the spin attack until you're able to actually deal the damage on Zurg. So that way you can able to actually deal from here, because unlike the video game version of Toy Story 3, in specifically the Buzz video game level, where basically that in order to actually deal the damage on Zurg, is just use your laser. But that's not the case on this particular game this time around, because you need to utilize the actual spin attack and hope for the best. So, yeah, it's not that hard of a boss fight though, but one thing I will admit though is the fact that he will start to back away for a little bit, which always feels a little bit more distracting at points, but either way though, still, it doesn't really bother me that much though, but hey. And I've no idea why I keep on, like, being very quiet all of a sudden, just because, well, not only just because we pretty much running out of ideas for news, updates, or anything like that, but it's also about the fact that when Mario already mentioned about loads of stuff during the forms of Super Mario Odyssey Let's Play so far, even on Luigi's Bloom World's case, so even then, and also at the same time, is the fact that I'm feeling a little bit more, not so much cold, but it's just that I've just felt a little bit exhausting after recording a lot of those commentaries like this. But apart from those side of things though, it's not too noticeable, I think. And as soon as you do enough damage on Zurg, well, like the movie, he'll able to fall off the actual elevator. So, that's as far as memories goes about that specific point. So, although, except the fact that Rex wasn't in the actual boss fight though, so even then, well, it's just a video game logic aside from that, so... Alright, so that pretty much takes care of the forms of that particular boss, and sure enough, we almost nearly towards the end of the game already. Which then again, I'll mention this again, that this Let's Play will be over until, you know, next Thursday, so... Another bonus movie reward where basically the rest of the gang managed to hop onto the Pizza Planet truck, so very iconic for every single Pixar films these days. So yeah, I guess we'll end things off here. So join me next time on Let's Play Toy Story 2 is the fact that we're going to be moving on to Airport Infiltration, my least favorite stage in the game. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.